Westfair Communications, publisher of the Westchester County Business Journal and Fairfield County Business Journal, on April 9th presented its 2026 real estate event at the C.V. Rich Mansion in White Plains. A panel of key figures in the field discussed the current state of real estate development with a focus on affordable housing, transit-oriented development, and the effort underway in Albany to modify requirements of the state's Environmental Quality Review Act to eliminate some of the red tape that has slowed down various projects. The Capelli organization was the partnering sponsor for the event. Opening remarks were delivered by Deputy Westchester County Executive Joan McDonald.
We've had a couple of great programs on the books for many years, which many of you in the room have taken advantage of to help get housing built. Our New Homes Land and Acquisition allows us to work with developers to purchase property, flip it to you, and then let you begin your projects. We also have the Housing Infrastructure Fund, which is money that goes to municipalities for infrastructure needs for those developments that are affordable housing. We also are working very closely and have endorsed the governor's proposal to make changes to SECRA. We know they're slogging it out up in Albany and getting through the budget, but we're hopeful that that provision will remain intact. We think it's extremely helpful for those of you and for those of us in government to get housing built.
We are in a crosswinds across the board, not just Westchester County. Westchester County models many other neighborhoods throughout the country, but affordability has always been an issue in our country. It's always been someone struggling for the use of land, the maximum use of land to benefit your family or your community so that you live a quality life. But now we're in a stage where the population has increased, particularly in Westchester County, with the same amount of land, with significant barriers, some higher costs, a lot of regulation, and a lot of subsidy. So many in our county particularly are benefiting from great developments across the board, but many are not.
Most of the municipalities where we are building have an affordable housing requirement in their zoning codes or their building codes. So we do build affordable in every one of our projects. It's typically 10 to 12% of all the units. You know, when you're building affordable housing, you're relying on state, county, government assistance, a lot of subsidies. When you're building market rate, there's really not any of that, certainly not within the, I'll call it the financing world. And I've always thought it would be great if there was a way to take some of those financing mechanisms and use them in market rate building so that we go, instead of 10%, maybe we go to 20%, but you try and use those incentives that the county offers, for example, the state offers, to help subsidize what you're doing. And I think the other thing I was going to think about the affordability, part of the problem in my mind is it has a really negative connotation. And it's really not fair, right? It is more so a lot about workforce housing, and the people that work in your buildings, the people that work in the stores near where you want to shop and where you live or where you work, they can't afford to be there. So they're taking these hour-long, 2-hour-long commutes to get to serve your community, and they're not living in the community because they can't afford it. So to me, it's that part of the problem here is it's everybody automatically, when you say affordable, they think of something like a Section 8 housing project, and that's not what affordable housing is.
I think if you can build around, the town centers, around the train stations, you can keep kind of the single-family charm of some of these municipalities in a good state, and you build density around, the town centers and where the train station is located. I think that also is a little, if you can prove to the residents of the municipalities that it's not going to ultimately impact their schools too negatively, I think that is a much more kind of sellable story.
For the folks in Connecticut, it's been a very interesting story. So this is really state versus municipality. So the state passed this law, 830G, where if you are building multifamily housing with a certain percentage of affordable, then if the local zoning board turns you down, you kind of appeal to the state to get status, and then they have the right to overrule the local zoning board for every issue except traffic or for safety. And it's amazing now how many things they're calling safety in order to get in, but there's direct tension. And it has, like, there are, 3 or 4 projects I know anecdotally that are only being built because of the law. But having the state and municipalities fight each other is a really interesting example of the problem.
To do affordable housing, generally you need subsidy.
That's right.
And if it costs much more to build an affordable housing than it used to, it means you need more subsidy, which means that the same amount of subsidy Westchester County has, as Joan said, 2 $25 million programs, they added a third $25 million program. Why? Because just to get the same number of units they used to do takes a lot more subsidy. Not the words I was going to use, but a lot more subsidy. And it's really a problem. I mean, even when you get past the NIMBYism, when you get to places that support affordable housing, you still need subsidy, and there's much more subsidy needed for every unit. That reduces the supply.
It's interesting, actually. Our company was recently selling a absolutely pristine office property on 127 acres of land, and one of the potential buyers that we interviewed, everyone was going to be redeveloping this office into residential ultimately, for the most part, that we interviewed. And one of the owners that we interviewed had his own building materials company. So he was sort of, I think he was able to control a lot of the development costs. I mean, I think what would be interesting is if the government, if you had some way of purchasing building materials on a very cost-effective basis, because so much of it is the cost of construction, right? And you can't control the price of steel, the price of lumber. I mean, anyway, this particular owner, although he didn't ultimately win the project, sort of blew me away with the verticals within his own company.
Is TOD and transit really important to every job that you do?
To every
job that you do, TOD and transit really important?
It's not to every job, but I just want to add, Clay, there's also the issue of affordable home ownership, right?
Okay.
We're not just focusing on multifamily, high-rises. Right? There is a greater need to continue to subsidize and support affordable home ownership, and clearly we have issues of interest rates, et cetera, but there's got to be a greater need, because that's what's going to continue to build the nature of our communities. That's what really moves people out of poverty, out of middle class, through home ownership, and there's got to be a greater focus on affordable home ownership.